If you've already discovered purpose, then you need to avoid this. Now, before we go on, a woman was tripped by her young son while he was playing, and after being tripped, the whole pot of soup she was carrying, which was very hot, poured on his body. It got emptied on him, and at the end of the day, he had his hands and face burnt. Now, he was immediately rushed to the hospital and treated. All the affected areas were bandaged, and after that he apologized to his mom and said, "Mom, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to trip you." Of which she responded, "I know, son, and that is why I always say that whenever you are playing, avoid me, especially when you see me carrying hot things." Of which the boy responded. Now take note of this response, because this is one particular response that a lot of people say in this time. His response to her was, "I didn't know." Now the complete statement was, "I didn't know it was that hot." Now this particular statement, "I didn't know," has plagued a lot of people a lot, and that and other things is what we will be looking at. Hello everyone, and welcome once again to the Review With Me podcast. I'm your host and your walkthrough reading coach, Mrs. Peace Tamino. I hope you've been able to catch up on all our previous episodes of the book we are reviewing. We are currently reviewing the book In Pursuit of Purpose by Miles Monroe, and we are in chapter 10. Now chapter 10 is titled The Peril of Purpose. I will paraphrase it as the perils of a known purpose. And if you're ready, please come with me. And while we're about to start, hit the like button, share, subscribe, tag someone who you think needs this, and let's find out the perils of a known purpose. Back to my story. I said the boy made a particular statement, which was, "I didn't know." And that will take us to our first peril, the peril of ignorance, which is also known as the "I didn't know" syndrome. Now, this is one of the most destructive forces in the world today. It causes wars, poverty, it causes fear, it causes worry and anxiety. In fact, we can say ignorance is the number one enemy of life. What is ignorance? Ignorance is defined as the quality of little or no knowledge, little or no education, experience, training, etc. Now, if we are to link it with purpose, ignorance is meant to be little or no knowledge of the reason for a person's existence. Hence, ignorance permits the person to live all their life never knowing why they lived it. You see? I didn't know that this was what I was created for. I didn't know that this was what I was supposed to do. I didn't know that my purpose was supposed to take me in this line. So at the end of the day, the person ends up living their life without knowing why they have lived their life. And this is very dangerous. Now, just like the child, as we said, just like that child who said, "I didn't know it was that hot." He knew it was hot, so he knew the purpose. He knew that thing mommy was carrying was hot, but he didn't know it was that hot. And that's why we said it is called a peril of the known purpose. So you know the purpose, but apart from that, you know nothing about the purpose. You've not gone for knowledge about that purpose. Now, some of us are like that with God's purpose for ourselves. You see, knowledge without understanding gives you a false security. That you know something, but you don't understand it's working. You don't understand how it's going to go. You are still as equal to the person who did not know or who doesn't even know at all, because both of you are still in the same space. In fact, that person is going to may actually even be forgiven because he doesn't know at all. But in your own case, you know that this is your purpose for creation, but you're not doing anything about it. How will you take it forward? You don't know. You sit down in the same spot. The journey of living with purpose requires that we have a lifelong relationship with our Creator as creators. You see, in chapter 9, we talked about God being the source of purpose. So after you've discovered purpose, you cannot just begin to run with it just like that. You've discovered what your purpose is. The next thing to do is the trainings I will have to go through, the skills I will have to learn, what I have to do in order to ensure that this purpose is being achieved. Now let's move to the second peril. Number 2, the peril of despair. This occurs when the vision and the reality are far apart. This is why we have to remain in constant communion. Sorry about that. This is why we have to remain in constant communion with God and have a close relationship with Him, so that He can help us to stretch our faith. Because the truth is, yes, you find out your purpose, you've been given a vision, but life happens. Life happens to people. So we constantly need faith, and that is why we need God always to help us stretch our faith, because there are times where we'll be faced with a challenge, and then when we're faced with that challenge, if we don't have the faith to stand, we will actually give up. Now, listening to our fathers in faith, my spiritual grandfather Bishop Oyedepo was talking about a particular time where his daughter was attacked with the spirit of death. Imagine a man of God praying for people, doing exploits in the kingdom, and then he was attacked with the spirit of death in his home. Now, at that point, if he wasn't in constant communion with God, it may have caused him to go into despair. It may have affected his faith. But because of his constant communion and relationship with God, God was able to help him stretch his faith, and he was able to face that situation and pray her out of the spirit of death. So the truth is, yes, we have a glowing vision ahead of us, but also real are the ups and downs of life that we must face. It is a must that we'll face them to get there. So the Bible says, though we pass through challenges, even though we are pushed to the wall, we won't be crushed. What does that mean? There will be a pushing. We will actually be pushed to the wall. And he also went ahead to say, there's no temptation that is befallen man that is new. And then God will not always, He will not also allow us to go through a temptation that is beyond us. What does that tell us? There are temptations that will come your way. There are ups and downs that will come your way. And Jesus exhibited this even while He was here on earth. We saw the story of the Pharisees attacking Him. So He faced the attack from the Pharisees. He faced storms. Even in the boat while He was sleeping, there was storm going on. So life will always give you challenges. That you found your vision does not mean that everything will move smoothly. So that's the peril of a non-purpose. You actually have to be in constant relationship with God, communing with Him, so He can strengthen us and give us instructions to move to the next phase. You see, despair is a danger of a known purpose, but when we deepen our relationship with God, it cannot overcome us. If we want to look at another example there, we'll see the story of Elijah in the Bible. Elijah was a great prophet in the Bible. Now, this same Elijah that did a lot of, God used to wrought a lot of miracles, was scared because he was threatened by Queen Jezebel that she was going to kill him. And Elijah ran and hid. He ran and hid somewhere and was scared. And when God, he got into a conversation with God, he told God, I'm scared because this lady wants to kill me. She has killed other people and she wants to also kill. If she finds me, she will kill me. And while he was there having a communion with God, God gave him an instruction for the next phase. So communion and relationship with God is very key when it comes to purpose, because that is what will give you the strength to keep going on. Now, number 3, the peril of idolatry. This is caused by prolonged desperation, and it means replacing God with something or someone else. What do we mean? Living with purpose contains temptations, which we've established. It contains temptations to focus more on the struggles of the journey than on who has sent us, and to focus on the one who has called us. So, for example, look at the children of Israel in this particular one, talking about idolatry. Now, I was actually even reading the book of Exodus, where after everything God did for them, we are actually very quick to judge the children of Israel, but the truth is, it is actually repeating itself in life today. Now, the children of Israel were slaves in Egypt, and then God brought a lot of miracles. He did a lot of plagues that actually exempted them. It was physical, exempting them from all those plagues, and then He brought them out of the land of Egypt. And as if that was not enough, there was a pillar of fire that was guiding them every time, and a pillar of cloud. So they were seeing these things happen live. And as if that was still not enough, there was the parting of the Red Sea, where they had to walk in between the Red Sea on dry land. Now, after seeing all these things, they still chose to focus on the struggles of their vision. They were on their way to the Canaan land, which is supposedly a vision for them, but they chose to focus on the struggles because they didn't see Moses at that time, and automatically they asked for an idol to be made for them. Now, a lot of people are like that. They focus on the struggles of your purpose. They focus on the struggles instead of focusing on the one who has actually called them. So just like the children of Israel, in church we have a lot of people today. These people are fueled by impatience, hence they move ahead of God's schedule. They want to run faster than God. They want to run faster than His timing. The truth is, idolatry short circuits our potentials and deters God's work. through us. And that is one thing God will not tolerate. If there's one thing God does not tolerate at all, is the fact that his glory be shared with someone else. Is the fact that he pick something to replace him in your life. Now, in this day and time and in this age, a lot of people don't naturally just create or carve an image and begin to worship. But there must be if there's something or someone that is taking the space of God. God is supposed to be first in your life. And if there's someone taking the place of God in your life, you're confused, you're trying to find direction, and the first thing you're doing is to ask somebody, what is God saying? Instead of finding out, instead of going to ask God in prayer, you're asking somebody, what is God saying? Then you are actually making an idol of that person. You're putting idolatry, means using something or someone else to replace God. And that is one thing God hates the most. That is one thing God doesn't want. Now we'll go to the next one, the peril of arrogance. Now, this involves limiting God by binding his hands, because we presume, note the keyword there, we presume that we know how and when God is going to work. So we bind his hands because we feel like, yes, I've worked with God for over 20 years, so I know how he's going to work, I know what he's going to do. The truth is, yes, God actually shows us some things. He actually exposes. We have a deep relationship with God. He exposes, he helps us to understand his will better. But that doesn't automatically mean that we know everything about him. See, if God should show us the bigger and the greater picture, it will overwhelm a lot of us. So he doesn't reveal everything. That's why even the vision that he has given you, he doesn't reveal the complete vision at once. He reveals it in bits and bits. Little by little. When you are able to accomplish this, he reveals the next phase to you. And that is one thing about God, because if he reveals the whole picture to you, it's so big and it will overwhelm a lot of us. Now, the gift of the peril of arrogance makes people feel like, I have worked with God for over a long period of time, I know how God works, I know how God does this thing, and automatically they bind God and put him in a box. This peril actually interferes with our purpose, or it nullifies it. That's one of the two. It either does any of them. It's either it interferes with our purpose for creation, or it will nullify the purpose for creation. Because at the end of the day, God will say, okay, since you know now, come and lead yourself, come and be going, direct us. Since you are now the father of God and the mother of God, you will now be the one to direct us in the way to go, instead of the other way round. Now, okay, as I said, once we actually, some people who are faced with this particular period, they feel like they've experienced God before because they have a close relationship with God, so they can actually dictate everything, they can predict everything that God will do. One of the persons we'll see here is King Saul. Now, King Saul felt like he knew everything, and since he knew everything, he knew that after you come back from war, you actually offer a sacrifice to God to appreciate God. After all, what was Samuel coming for? Samuel was going to come for sacrifice, and because of that, he started overriding instructions. He had worked with Samuel before, so he had seen, he had eaten with Samuel, so he had seen, he had prophesied. The Bible said there was a time where Saul met with the prophet, and he joined them, and before you know what was happening, the spirit of prophecy came upon him, and he also prophesied, such that people were asking, is Saul also among the prophets? So because of that, he became arrogant. There was this arrogance of the fact that, yes, I've been able to work with the priest, so I know these things and I know how it follows, so I can pick some of these animals and then use them and make sacrifices to God. After all, God loves sacrifices. He will not reject it. And he began to flaunt instructions, and because of that, it actually nullified, in fact, he killed his purpose. Saul was actually the first king God chose for Israel, but that arrogance killed his purpose. So the truth about this is that it is better for us to do what God tells us to do than to decide that you want to do something nice for God. Because the truth is, that nice thing that you want to do for God may not actually be what God wants for you at the moment, and it may be something that will end up nullifying or destroying your purpose for creation. And the truth about it is, there are some people that in order for life to go on, that purpose, that gift has to be taken out from them and given to someone else, so they actually have to leave. In Saul's case, an evil spirit came upon him, and the assignment that was placed in his hand was given to someone else. In some other people's case, it may be that the only way that assignment can actually be taken from them is through death. One can never tell. That's why the peril of arrogance is very dangerous. The next peril is the peril of criticism. The truth is, you will actually be criticized. Knowing your purpose, you will be criticized. But here's what the other part of the story. Sometimes we who have discovered our purpose also end up criticizing people who do things we don't understand. As long as our purpose and their purpose does not align, as long as what they are doing and what we're doing is not working together, as long as what we're doing does not match, we end up criticizing their purpose. If our vision and theirs does not match, if what they are doing is not understandable by us, it looks strange to us, automatically it leads to criticism. So what is a peril of purpose that goes both ways? Sometimes we get criticized, and then if we're not careful, we also get to criticize people we don't understand. Remember, I said in one of the chapters that if the purpose of a thing is not known, it is better to leave it than to actually begin to think otherwise. So when you see somebody working or doing something, if you don't have the spirit of discernment to understand what that person is doing, it is better not to say anything. See, silence is a very great answer. Even the Bible says a foolish man when silent will be mistaken for the wise. He will be mistaken for a wise person. It's not everything we see we talk. It's not everything we see we begin to say things about, because God is so broad and bigger than you. He's bigger than your knowledge. He's bigger than your country. He's bigger than everything you have learned. In order for you that you will not end up putting him in a box feeling like you've known him. No. So peril of criticism is something that one should watch out for. Jesus was criticized because every other prophet came and was doing things in a particular way. When Jesus Christ came and said, before Abraham I was, it caused issue. Every other prophet was subscribing to the Sabbath. Jesus came and said the Sabbath was made for man and not man for the Sabbath, and that got people. And because he was doing things they didn't understand, he was healing people on the Sabbath day, he was eating and working on the Sabbath day, and it was something, it wasn't a vision that was matching with their own. Hence he was criticized. So never assume someone is wasting their life if we do not understand their actions. Silence is actually better. It makes people think a person is wise than for you to end up saying things. See, one of the worst places to say things on is actually even social media. A lot of people go out and say things, criticize people. Must you actually talk? You don't necessarily need to talk. What happens to keeping quiet and just passing? Just pass and move away from there. You don't need to talk. It's not a must that you must drop your opinions there, especially when you don't even understand what is going on. The next peril is the peril of deception, which will be our last discussion for today. This happens in two ways. Number one, the blame game for our shortcomings. So when we come up short, we begin to blame people. That's a deception. That's deception at the highest order. Self-deception. And then the next one is relying heavily on others for direction and purpose. Either way, we are deceiving ourselves. And the truth is, the devil is the father of deception. To achieve purpose, faithfulness is key. Satan is very deceptive, and his aim is to deceive and distract. That's why he was sent to it. He's not so powerful, he's not so tricky. His plans or the way he does his things are the same. His tricks are always the same. He comes to deceive people, he comes to twist the truth, he comes to change the truth. You made a mistake, and instead of accepting it, you begin to blame others. It's because that's the devil deceiving you to enter into self-denial. Deception is very, very dangerous. If you don't find your God-given purpose, Satan will supply one for you, and that's just the truth. Now, on this another way, this deception shows up. You've not discovered your purpose, and then the devil just whispers something into your ear. You know, the devil can sense the greatness of a man. He can sense it. He may not be able to tell the full picture, but he can sense it. And then if you don't go ahead to find purpose, because he can sense it, he will bring something that is like it, but is not it, and then give it to you. And that is why everyone has to be in a close relationship with God, because I wonder how people live their life without God. The devil brings things to you that is not who you really are, and then you begin to run with that, run with it. So the truth is, you can never get to your destination going in the wrong direction. Never. You can't get to your destination in that wrong direction. You have to go back and start from the beginning. Find out what your purpose is and begin to work at it. Beyond all these pitfalls, God just needs us to accept and agree that accept and agree to his will for us. He has a will and a purpose for us. These pitfalls are things that will actually show up and show their face at us. But the question now is, are we committed to following God completely? Some people give their life to God and take it back. They give their life today, they take it back. Yes, I know what I'm saying, because I used to be there in a particular time until on the 14th of March 2016. I made up my mind and said, God, I am not going back anymore. Sorry, on the 16th of March 2014, I said, I'm not going back anymore. So I'm giving you my life. I'm giving it to you completely. So you need to give your life to God, get committed to Him, and stay. See, there's a staying power that is needed to fulfill purpose. And if you don't have that staying power, you will definitely fall into these perils of known purpose. So a staying power is actually required and necessary. At this point, I'll be drawing the curtain. If you didn't get anything from this point, from this podcast today, just know that the known purpose actually has issues that are attached to it. But one thing that keeps you safe is your constant communion and deep relationship with our Creator, who is also the source of purpose. Thank you very much for staying with me. I hope you enjoyed this. And please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and follow. Let's cultivate once again the reading culture in our society. Tag someone and let them know that something like this is going on. I will be seeing you in the next chapter. Thank you very much, and God bless you.